one thing about waiting for a payoff that you never saw coming is that feeling of your world tilting on its axis when it actually arrives. And that is exactly what we got with One Piece chapter 1044. Now, before I get into any of the conversation, I would like to point out that there will be spoilers. You've been warned. Now, if you haven't read the latest chapter yet, please, for the love of all things holy or unholy, take your pick, do so right now. It was incredible and fantastic, especially if you've been following the manga, right? And the response from the fandom has been just as huge. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone is bringing up the many ways in which Oda had this in the works for years. So this video isn't going to reiterate that conversation, right? Between Sensei Inc., BDA Law, O'Hara, Mr. Modge, Joy Boy Theories, I think we're all covered on that part. They've all been tracing the many ways in which Oda set things up to bring us to this very precipice of having our collective minds blown out of orbit, out of the galaxy. So that is not what this video is going to be about. No, this video will instead focus on making a bit of a comparison to another manga, which almost a decade ago pulled a similar move. Our main character, who all this while we'd assumed we knew everything there was to know about his power, was hit with shocking news that stunned us all as well. Zangetsu the Zampatu wasn't really Zangetsu the Zampatu. Everything we thought we knew changed, and the Bleach fandom was turned on its head. And yet, the reaction from when that happened in 2013 is widely different from fandom's reaction to the revelation we got in chapter 1044, that Luffy's devil fruit isn't the Gomu Gomu no Mi like we had all assumed for the over 2 decades that Oda has been writing this story. And the one question that has been plaguing me all this while, technically since Saturday, is why? Why are these two separate stories, yeah, written by two separate mangaka that both presented us with a similar shift in our perception of the main character and how his power works, generated such widely different responses? Of course, there are people who don't like the direction Oda's taken with Luffy's fruit, but they are still a significantly smaller number than the rest of the fandom that is absolutely thrilled at this development. And after much deliberation about this, I think I stumbled on the answer. Oda's the better writer. Sorry, that was a joke. Although, to be fair, I think there's an element of truth in my words, right? In that what stands One Piece and its recent revelation apart from Bleach and what Tite Kubo attempted 9 years ago is foreshadowing and how both writers incorporated it or didn't into the story they were telling, and how in turn the discovery slash revelation made one fandom feel ecstatic, connecting all the dots, and the other fandom was left confused as fuck. But before we get into that, hello, I'm Noria, and this channel chronicles my life as a nerd. Sometimes it will be books, sometimes it's manga, maybe anime, comics, random things I like, and sometimes it's me explaining why Thane's Romance is the best romance option for Commander Shepard, which I should probably film at some point, and if that did not give me away, yes, I always play as a female shepherd. Sue me. So if you're a nerd too, or you like my content, or you are interested in what I could possibly make, do consider hitting the subscribe button and turning on post notifications. I have some upcoming One Piece videos. I have some that time I got reincarnated as a slime videos, and an analysis on why Death of the Endless from the Sandman comics by Neil Gaiman is one of my favorite depiction of death in media. So all these videos are coming right up. If you're interested, keep an eye out on this channel. Now, back to today's video, which will focus on chapter 1044 of One Piece and chapter 540 of Bleach. Now, for those who for some reason never read or watched Bleach, don't worry, I wouldn't judge, I won't judge. Maybe just a little, just a tiny bit. But anyway, Bleach follows Kurosaki Ichigo, a 15-year-old high schooler, a human, like we are first led to believe, who can see ghosts. He lives in Karakura town with his father and two younger sisters, and is a delinquent with a heart of gold. And by delinquent, I mean Ichigo is an angry young man who loves to fight and is quite good at it. But eventually, through the course of the story, we will discover the tragedy behind why he is the person he is and what the loss of a beloved mother can do to a sensitive young boy. But anyway, I digress. The story kicks off proper when Kuchiki Rukia, a Shinigami, Shinigamis, by the way, are Death Reapers, Soul Reapers, who came from Soul Society. Soul Society being a realm separate from the human realm where goats depart to after they've been given a soul burial by a Shinigami that allows their spirit to cross over. If they do not actually cross over, then the soul, from spending way too long in a human realm and getting corrupted as a result, will become a hollow who then devours humans and other souls like spirits. And so Rukia is in Karakura town to find a hollow. But things happen, and in order to help Ichigo protect his sisters, Rukia accidentally transfers most of her powers to Ichigo. I say accidentally transfers because she was planning on transferring just some of her powers, but she ends up transferring practically everything. And so thereafter, she serves as a guide who helps to train him in helping her carrying out her Shinigami functions because she cannot be Shinigami no more now that she has no Shinigami powers, right? So there's a lot of Ichigo getting used to his new powers and working with Rukia until Rukia is forcefully taken back to Soul Society to be executed for breaking one of their most fundamental rules, giving a human her powers, which is a big no-no. Now, Bleach for the longest time was one of my favorite stories because Tite Kubo knew what he was doing and what story he was telling until, in my personal opinion, the ending of the fake Karakura Town arc, because that was where things went downhill for me. And it came to a head in the Thousand Year Blood War arc. After Abrairenji and Ichigo meet with the man, the legend, the Shinigami, the brains behind the creation of the Shinigami Zampatus, which is Uetsu Nimaya, who tests Ichigo in a bid to reveal the fact that the Zampatu, known as Zangetsu, the one that Ichigo has been using since chapter 66, when he seemingly reveals his name to Ichigo, whilst the later was fighting Kosuke Uehara, who was a former captain of the Gotei 13, is not actually Zangetsu. So get this, for over a decade, from Ichigo fighting with Zangetsu in his Shikai form to Zangetsu in his Bankai form, we all assume that this Zanpakuto is actually a Zanpakuto called Zangetsu. Until Nimaya yanks that rug from underneath both our feet, both Ichigo's feet and our feet, as he informs Ichigo that Zangetsu isn't actually Zangetsu, and that to make matters worse, it's not even a Zanpakuto. It's not even a Zanpakuto. It's instead Ichigo's Quincy powers that took its form from the final villain of the story, Yavak, the Emperor of the Wonderwreck and the father of the Quincy. Now, if that just confused you, then it gets even worse because what followed the reveal was a convoluted explanation of how Zangetsu had been subduing Ichigo's actual Zanpakuto, who is the real Zangetsu, to keep Ichigo from accessing or tapping into his actual Shinigami powers because, get this, Zangetsu was worried about Ichigo and all the trials and pains that Ichigo would face were he to become a Shinigami. Trials that fake Zangetsu believed would eventually lead him to kill Ichigo should Ichigo become a Shinigami, which was why he kept suppressing Ichigo's Shinigami powers. But then, as a result of Ichigo's perseverance and dedication, Zangetsu had a change of heart, and next thing you knew, he was rooting for Ichigo to succeed, blah blah blah, and that is why things then remained the way they were. In that Zangetsu did not attempt to keep Ichigo from becoming a Shinigami. I repeat, this entire revelation left the fandom confused as fuck. Because see, Kubo wrote these revelations like he had set things up in the previous chapters of the manga. Like if we went back to previous chapters, the way everybody is doing right now with One Piece, please note I am still going to tie this back to One Piece, right? So he wrote it like if you go back to previous chapters, the review would make sense. Except we did. We did go back. It still didn't make sense. It did not make an iota of sense. Case in point, When Nimaya is explaining how the Shinigami Zanpakuto are made, it stated that all Shinigamis first start off with an asalshi, which are nameless blades that represent the misuse of Zanpakutos by Shinigamis who don't know their names and have not cultivated a relationship with their Zanpakutos, right? However, the first time Ichigo displayed Zangetsu was in the presence of Urahara, a former captain of the Gotei 13, and Shihoin Yoroichi, the love of my life, and another former captain of the Gotei 13, and the former commander of Soul Society's covered ops, right? And she's also from a noble family. This two characters are old as fuck. They have experience. They should know better. Are we to believe that they had no idea, that they did not flag it for any reason, that, oh, Zangetsu wasn't formed from an Asauchi, even when Urarawa was giving Ichigo a crash training course in being a Shinigami, and Yoroichi was training him how to, awaken his Bankai. They never noticed, not to mention the fact that nobody actually mentioned the Asauchi before that point, which was extra odd because we spent a substantial amount of time in Soul Society, in the Soul Society arc, where Kubo explained everything relevant in the Soul Society world. So why didn't he speak on the Asauchi then? And then there's the bit of Ichigo's Zanpakuto being Olo Ichigo, and Tite Kubo's explanation for that was that, oh, you see, Olo Ichigo always came up or came to save Ichigo whenever he was in trouble. And all I'm thinking is that, but did he though? Did he though? Did he really? Because I would have sworn that it seemed like it was always on the verge of making things worse, right? Whether it was when Ichigo released the Bankai, first time he fought Byakuya in Serete, or when Olo Ichigo showed up with Ichigo as a Vasto Lord when he's fighting Ulukiora in Okumundo. Like, I mean, to be fair, Ted Kubo has written Olo Ichigo like it was either, another form of Ichigo, or Ichigo without any restraints, who was always acting just on instincts, like it was Dark Ichigo. So where on earth did this happen? Not to mention the fact that every single time the real Zangetsu showed up, that is Olo Ichigo showed up, he always showed up wielding fake Zangetsu, that is Ichigo's Quincy powers. Why didn't he see anything? Was fake Zangetsu blackmailing him? Did he have his tongue? Did he wipe away his memories? What did he have on you? What did he have on you, Olo Ichigo, that you never actually said the truth? And don't get me started on Ichigo's mother being a Quincy, because like, Ishida Ryuken did not mention anything about this woman he almost married, this woman who was his best friend and her kid. No other queen she came looking for Ichigo, which made no sense considering the fact that they all knew his mother. Like, the way things played out in Bleach seemed more like Tite Kubo needing a way to make Ichigo extra special, which is why at the height of the manga, Ichigo was a part human, part Shinigami, part Quincy, part Holo, also a Fullbringer hybrid, and then the final form of Zangetsu were two Zangetsu. One Zangetsu represented the Shinigami half, which was made up of his Holo and Shinigami powers, and the second Zangetsu represented his Quincy half. Plus, let's not forget the fact that Ishin, Ichigo's father, resigned from being a all-as captain of the Gotei 13, and yet conveniently nobody heard about him or his son. This man was powerful, he was strong, he was clearly influential, he was a captain of the Gotei 13, the elite of the Shinigamis, and nobody found out where he was. Nobody found out, like, oh, Ichigo is his son. Like, nothing. Like, it doesn't make sense. And that is it. That was why so many people were dissatisfied with how things played out in Bleach. Because that is not how foreshadowing works. It's not pulling new things out of thin air and trying to reverse engineer your way into oh, this is how it's always been. What do you mean I never mentioned it before? Oops. My bad. Sorry, must have skipped my mind. But don't worry, this is the new reality now. Hope you're happy though. It doesn't work like that. And the reason why we know it doesn't work like that is because we've seen it done right. And Oda proves this. One person who proves this by getting it right is Oda. In One Piece, chapter 1044, we get the reveal that Luffy's devil fruit isn't actually the Gomu Gomu no Mi, but is instead the mythical Zoan devil fruit, Ito Ito no Mi model Nika. And when that reveal came, everything else clicked into place. Of course, Luffy is a Zoan user. It explains the gear systems is developed since he first revealed gear second in NES lobby, and why it seems like his body transforms and changes with each gear form, because he's actually actually transforming like Chopper and every other Zone user does. It explains why everyone who's fought him is quite confused as to how his power actually works. Why, when he fought Blueno, the latter was confused as to how quickly Luffy mastered what he thought was shade, when it was instead Luffy being very creative with how his rubber abilities work. It's why Doflamingo was confused as to how Luffy was able to incorporate Aki into his rubber abilities, why Kaido was insistent that rubber shouldn't be able to do that. It is all rooted in the fact that Luffy is able to change forms because he's a Zoan and is able to determine the way his rubber abilities work due to the scope of his imagination and the nature of the fruit he has. It is why no one else can quite use the Ito Ito no Mi model Nika the way Luffy has been able to do it. So I apologize. I'm sorry, Burgess, but even if you had gotten by some luck had gotten your hand on Luffy's fruit, it would not have served you. It's probably why the fruit hasn't awakened in 800 years. Nika, the fruit, not the god, as a Zone Devil fruit that thrives on just how ridiculous it can be, is a perfect match for the man who wants to be the Pirate King, who is always thinking and improvising in his fights that are sometimes hilarious as fuck. I mean, one of the first Luffy fights we experienced was the one he had with Buggy. That entire fight sequence was a hoot. It was a riot. Him tickling Buggy to get him to keep him from attacking Nami. Chef's kiss, hilarity. There is no limit to what Luffy can accomplish with his sense of humor, his imagination, and his determination to be free and to bring freedom to others. And that is something that has been consistent with him since we first saw him. Whether it's freeing one Nakama from the bonds of gratitude that bound him to the man who saved him, or is encouraging another one to come see the world and make the lies of a life lived on the sea the truth, or is saving one from certain death and torture at the hands of a government that wiped out our entire town, wiped out the entirety of our childhood, and has had her on the run ever since, or is giving another one an escape from an afterlife of loneliness. Whether it's saving Kokoyashi village from pirates, saving Alabasta from certain destruction, shining light on the dark corners of Ryugu Kingdom, or bringing smiles to the faces of the people of Dressrosa. Luffy, from the very first chapter, has always brought joy and freedom to the people he's met and the islands he's visited. It's why when we got the revelation that he is Joy Boy, that his devil fruit has awakened, and that it is the mythical Zone devil fruit, the Ito Ito no Mi model Nika, for the god who led the slaves to freedom and whose heart beats the drums of liberation, everything made sense. It clicked for us. The physicality and the significance of Luffy's devil fruit and his ability and what they mean in the story are so in sync with his character, and is a reward to us, the readers, who have stuck with his story for the last 1044 chapters. The Luffy that we discover after the revelation in chapter 1044 is familiar. It makes us smile because, of course, he's Joy Boy. Of course, his foot is the Ito Ito no Mi model Nika. It makes sense. That is what makes Oda different. That is what makes him the GOAT. That is why he is Goda. Because this change works within the story. We don't think he gave Luffy a needless power up that doesn't suit his character or doesn't suit the story that has been years in the making. It's not a power up that changes who Luffy is at his core. The Luffy revealed after Gear 5, after the Ito Ito no Mi model Nika, after the Joy Ball reveal, will still be Monkey D. Luffy. He will still grin happily at his new bounty that we know for sure he's getting after Wano. He's still going to shove all the food he can in his mouth at the speed with which Sanji is able to cook them and they come out of the kitchen. He's still going to bow his head in gratitude at the chance to rescue the women who saved him and who shouldn't spend the rest of their lives petrified because of him. He's still going to tease Momonosuke in one breath and promise to come and save him in the next. He's still going to grow powerful enough to keep his Nakama safe, to be the freest man on the seas, all the while declaring to the world and everyone who will listen, Kaizoku ni Orewa Naru